Well, hey everybody, it's Tuesday. That means it's story time. I have a funny story. Some of you young at hearts may have heard this because I think it's a really pretty old story. All right. I hope you're doing well and staying safe. All right. Now, this is not my story, okay, but starts out talking about my mother. My mother never let me do much in the kitchen except make salads or stir the gravy. My cooking skill was practically non-existent when I got married. But I did remember Mother mentioning to her friends that she had made certain cakes, pies, biscuits, and things like that from scratch. So my first priority after the honeymoon was to locate some scratch. With Mother's deliveries of cake and other things in mind, I took my first trip to the store. I was busy with looking for scratch. I found the aisle marked baking items and spent 15 minutes looking from top to bottom for scratch. I found everything from oil to flour, but I could not find any sign of scratch. There wasn't any with the pickles. There wasn't any near the meat either. I asked the clerk if they carried scratch. He gave me an odd look and said, "I'll have to go to the Farm Bureau store on the corner." The Farm Bureau store was a feed and seed store. At first, I thought this was odd, but cakes are food, so I went in and said I would like to buy some scratch. When the clerk asked me how much I wanted, I said, "Oh, a pound or two would be enough." He said, "Well, it only comes in 20-pound bags." "How many chickens do you have?" Well, I didn't understand why he mentioned chickens, but my mother had said she made chicken casseroles from scratch, so I bought a 20-pound bag and hurried home, delighted with my purchase. My next problem was finding a recipe calling for scratch. I went through every page of my 3 cookbooks, but I couldn't find one recipe calling for scratch. I spent hours at the library searching, but no luck. There I was with 20 pounds of scratch and no recipe to make anything from it. When I opened the bag, I wondered how a fluffy, moist cake could result from such a hard-looking ingredient. But then I remembered that you add a lot of liquid stuff, and applications of heat might produce success. I had no desire to mention my problem to my husband, as he liked to cook and said he would be glad to take over that chore. One day, when I raved about his lemon pie, he proudly proclaimed that he had made it from scratch. I was convinced that, well, it must be able to be done. It is generally known that being a new bride is pretty scary, especially when 3 meals a day are expected. During the first week, I learned that muffins, waffles, pancakes, pies, cakes, and even pudding had been made from scratch by my husband. Well, if he had made all that from scratch, he must have bought a 20-pound bag too. I looked all over the house, but I couldn't find where he was keeping his scratch. The mystery continued, but I didn't dare reveal my problem. The biggest jolt came when a friend announced to us that he had built his new house from scratch. Then I remembered acquaintances saying that they'd made dresses and jackets from scratch, in addition to desserts and pastries. At this point, I was ready to give up because everybody knew everything about scratch except for me. From horses' hoofs, but my pride kept me going. If paper can be made from wood and glue can be made from horses' hoofs, maybe wood or cloth could be made from scratch. By now, the detective in me was getting weary. So one day, I asked my husband to teach me to bake a cake. He got out the flour, the sugar, the eggs, the milk, but there was no sign of scratch. I watched him blend all the ingredients together and put it into the oven. Later, when we were eating the cake, he couldn't understand my asking, "Honey, why don't we raise a few chickens?" Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Until next Tuesday, we'll see you.